Hello, new residents of the United States. Today I'm going to talk about everything you should know before opening your first credit card. If you are unsure about credit or credit scores, please check out my videos on that. Who am I? I'm an international teacher recruiter and I've helped hundreds of people move to the US, so I have seen a lot. I am not, however, a financial advisor, so I have to put that little disclaimer out there. Please do your own research and find out what works best for you. This video is purely informational. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, so I typically work with international teachers, like I mentioned, and I always recommend that people wait a few months before they open up a credit card. Why is that? I think it's always good just to have a payment history. Maybe you're getting paychecks now, a direct deposit. Now you have a social security number, you have a bank account. So you're gonna need all of those things before you apply for your credit card, especially because this is your first credit card you're applying to. If you have been here in the US for a few months, it's very likely that you are paying rent. Maybe not if you live with a friend or family member, but if you're paying rent, that is going towards your credit score, especially if you live in an apartment building, more of a corporate thing. Utilities, and maybe you have a car loan that you're paying off. All of those things will go towards your credit score, and hopefully you've been paying all your bills on time, so your credit score should be good. The only thing that's really holding you back is your length of credit, right? But how can we kind of elevate that and boost you further? That would be by getting a credit card. That is something really easy you can do, and I think if you've been here for a few months, that is definitely the way to go. So I do want to say, if you do research online, you are going to see a lot of mixed opinions about credit cards. There are some financial gurus who love them, myself included. I am not a financial guru, but I love credit cards. I think they are such a big blessing, and I'll get into that later in the video. And then there are others that will tell you it is a trap. Do not get them. And depending on the type of person you are, that can definitely be true. And the reason they say that is because it is so easy to get yourself into credit card debt if you are irresponsible. And I'm going to kind of go over this now so you can understand what to avoid, and then I'll get down into the nitty gritty. So what happens when you can apply for a credit card here when you're 18 years old? That's what I did. So let's say you're 18, you're not very responsible, you're pretty immature. I started working at 17, so it was the first time I really had money to spend, right? So you open up a credit card and they might give you a low limit. It'll typically be around, anywhere from $500 to $1,500. That was kind of the range that I was in. But just to make the numbers easier, for the sake of this video, we're gonna say that they gave you a credit limit of $100. What does that mean? That means that you have up to $100 you can spend on that card before that card will start declining. Okay, a lot of people see that and they think, yay, I have free money. That's not how that works. So you can view this as a month interest-free loan, basically, which is what it is. You get $100 and you can spend that during the course of 1 month. But it's a little more complicated than that. So one thing that will lower your credit score is if you use over 30% of your total credit utilization. So let's say you only have one credit card, you don't have any other ways you're making credit, your total credit utilization will be $100. So you don't want to spend over 30% of that before you pay it off. So in this case, that would be $30. So, you want to keep your purchases $29 or lower, I would say. But what a lot of people do is they might spend, so this is what you can do to protect your credit score, is not spend over 30% of that. And of course, financially, it's good because most of the time when you get a credit card and you're starting off, it is a pretty low limit. So it should be easier for you to pay that off. But sometimes what people do is they spend a little more than that, or even if they just spend $15, but maybe they don't have that money. Well, guess what? Your monthly payment will roll around and you might pay something called the minimum payment. The minimum payment is what you have to pay for this to not hurt your credit score. Again, it can hurt your credit score if you're spending too much, if you're spending over 30%, but it will also drastically hurt your credit score if you are not at least making your minimum payment every month, and then they can also shut your credit card down. So that is a horrible position to be in. But what people do is maybe they'll only make the minimum payment, yet they still have a balance that they're carrying over every month. And that balance is getting interest charged on it. So what happens is, okay, maybe you carry a balance for a month and you think, oh, okay, I'm paying 17% in interest. That's pretty low, actually. I'll say 22% in interest. That's bad, but I'm in a tough spot this month. Okay, well, next month rolls around and you start charging a little more and a little more, and oh no, it's okay, I'll pay it off. And then you never do. And before you know it, that debt has snowballed. It's only getting bigger and bigger and bigger because of the interest that is accumulating on that principal. All right, so I realize that may sound a little scary, but I do want to warn you about what can happen if you are irresponsible. But before I talk about the blessings of a credit card, I just want to go over some definitions so that everybody is on the same page, especially when you're applying for a credit card. So the first is going to be APR, and that is an acronym, just the letters, APR. It stands for annual percentage rate. So that is going to be the percentage that the credit card company will charge you in interest. And normally this can fluctuate a little bit, and they determine the score based on your credit worthiness. One that I was looking at today was, I think, 17.75, anywhere from that range to 26.75. So, they'll give you a range in between there. Again, a way to avoid paying that interest is by paying off your credit card in full every month, not just doing the minimum payment. You want to pay off your whole balance by the time your credit card bill is due. Another thing you need to know is the annual fee, and it is exactly what it sounds like. So some credit cards will have an annual fee. Some of these range from $100 all the way up to, I think the Centurion Black card is like $10,000 a year. But that is an invite-only card, and if you get invited to that card, you don't need to be watching this video. But you, especially starting out, you want to make sure you're applying for a credit card with a zero annual fee, right? $0. You don't want to pay an annual fee for this, especially not while you're just starting out. Sometimes people get turned off by the annual fee, but a little bit down the line, if you make credit cards work for you, and I actually had a TikTok channel all about making credit cards work for you, that annual fee can pay off. But for right now, please just get a card that has a $0 annual fee. And of course, your credit limit is the total amount, the maximum amount that they give you. So this could be $1,000, it could be $100,000. All right, so that is the maximum amount that you can spend on that card. All right, so let's talk about how you can use credit cards in your favor. So the number one thing, especially for you all right now, is going to be to help you build credit. The better your credit, the more likely you are to be approved for apartments, houses, even a mortgage one day, and you'll get better interest rates on mortgages, car loans, things like that. So of course, building credit is going to be very, very important. And again, the way to do that is to pay all your bills on time, credit card and non-credit card. But if it's a credit card bill, make sure you are paying at least the minimum payment every month to affect your credit score. I want you to pay your whole bill off in full, just because I don't want you to get wrapped up in interest and I don't want you to be in debt. But at the bare minimum, you have to at least pay off your minimum payment. All right, so now here's where credit cards get interesting. So like I mentioned earlier, some cards that have really high annual fees, a way you can offset that fee is by using all the perks of that credit card. And you're sitting here thinking, well, you just told me to get one with a $0 annual fee. Yes, I did. And this is what is so amazing about credit cards. There are many cards out there that will still give you benefits for free. So normally when you have $0 annual fee cards, typically they're cashback cards. There are some affiliated with airlines, but if you're new to the US, especially a lot of the people I work with, they definitely came here for greener pastures, and I understand that. So it probably seems like the cashback card is what would work best for you right now. So, and I'm going to speak about that because most of the $0 annual fee cards are cashback cards. So what does that mean, cashback? So let's say you have a card that says, all right, I'm going to give you 1% cashback on all purchases. All right, so let's say that month you spent $100. Well, guess what? You're going to get $1 back for spending $100. Okay, is this gonna make you rich? No, but with a debit card, most of the time you get nothing back. So when I was younger, what I would do was I would spend, my money throughout the year, and then come December, I had a nice chunk of cash back that I could use for presents, something for myself. So it does add up. Here's where things get more interesting. Some credit cards, although they give you that 1% cash back on all purchases, they'll give you maybe 2, sometimes even 3% cash back on specific categories. So some credit cards will say, okay, we'll give you but we'll give you 2% cash back on grocery purchases. So now I go to the grocery store, I pay $100, I'm getting $2 back in cash back. And, I think these cards are really great for people that are new to the US, because most of your money, especially when you're new here, is not going to fun things, right? It's, okay, I have all these move-in expenses that I had to pay. Now, I just need to pay for groceries, this and that. And most people are trying to live as frugally as they can, right? So that can really help you. And again, grocery might not be the only category. It could be gas, it could be something else. But that is why credit cards are so amazing. And another thing is, if let's say someone steals your credit card number, somehow they're using online, they just got your credit card number and they're making purchases online or whatever. Many times, not many, maybe like 4 or 5 times since I've had a credit card. I'm about to be 28, so 10 years. I've had someone call me from the credit card company and they've said like, hey, this is so-and-so calling with so-and-so. We have seen a lot of purchases here that are a little bit alarming. Is this you? I've looked, sure enough, it's not me. And they will immediately work on a case for you, and they will refund you that money back to your card. With debit cards, it can be a little bit trickier. So that's why I also prefer credit cards. It's just safer as well. So as you can tell, I'm very passionate about credit cards. I will say that I mentioned a lot of the dangers of credit cards at the beginning of this video. And when I first got my credit card at 18, I was very worried that I was going to get into credit card debt as well. This was a fear that I had. And so what I did was, my first year, I only spent my credit card at the grocery store and I think on gas. And I got used to making a payment every month. That was new to me. I just learned how to create the habit of paying off a credit card and using that credit card responsibly. Now I use my credit card for every single purchase because I refuse to spend money if I'm not getting points or cash back. So I have gotten a little spoiled from the credit cards, but and for me, that's just how I started. So if you're apprehensive about it, I would say just do it on small purchases. And most of you that are new here are in a position where you should really be doing it to boost your credit score. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. If you enjoy it, feel free to leave me a comment, a question I will answer, and I look forward to seeing you next time.